Jump up, bubble up, what's in store? Love's the drug and I need to score.
And yes, folks, that's Lisa Zane, the sister of Billy Zane and daughter of Freddy Krueger, as this Medusa singing the music of Roxy Music. Jesse Shade here for Awfully Good Movies on behalf of the JoBlo YouTube network. And none of my childhood memories are quite as precious as that of the day I rode with my dad in the pounding snow 45 minutes away to the nearest movie theater that was showing Monkeybone, after seeing the commercial for it during Tsunami and needing to see whatever the hell this insanity was. And nearly 25 years later, after having seen quite a bit of insanity during my lifetime, I still cannot tell you how Henry Selick got a major movie studio to agree to let him make one of the most beautifully insane pieces of cinema history, starring Brendan Fraser alongside a horny monkey in a land of nightmares in this WTF-worthy episode of Awfully Good Movies. After several decades of waiting, Michael Keaton has returned as the ghost with the most in director Tim Burton's spooky sequel, Beetlejuice, which with its big box office and positive audience reception has been a well-deserved comeback for Tim Burton's career. But also breaking big at the box office this year is the 15th anniversary re-release of Coraline, which back in 2009 was hailed as a career comeback itself for the man who helped Tim Burton bring his animated Disney classic The Nightmare Before Christmas to life, animation director Henry Selick, after he had flopped hard with his only live-action effort in 2001, starring Brendan Fraser and Bridget Fonda in another dark comedy about the afterlife known as Monkeybone. After briefly dipping into live action with his Tim Burton-produced Disney adaptation of James and the Giant Peach, Henry dived right into it with an adaptation of an indie graphic novel he had been sent in the mail, Kaya Blackley's Darktown, whose dark tone would be incredibly enlightened for its cinematic adaptation, about a successful yet depressed cartoonist who, after falling into a coma, enters a limbo land made up of living nightmares, where he teams up with his cartoon monkey creation to wake himself back home to his loving girlfriend. Think Beetlejuice plus Roger Rabbit divided by Cool World, and two of those movies are good. But after confused Fox executives had the film re-edited with help from executive producer Chris Columbus, Monkeybone was dumped into theaters to end up getting boned at the box office and having poop thrown at it from critics and audiences, with Henry Selick swearing off another live-action movie for the rest of his career. Yet since I have the honor of having seen Monkeybone in the theater 3 times as a kid out of sheer fascination, I'll examine why this flick is such an anomaly in Henry Selick's otherwise fantastic filmography. In fact, I'm sure some of you JoBlo subscribers were fooled like I was into thinking this was a Tim Burton movie, from all the advertising saying it was from the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas. But Tim Burton would be busy that same year making his own primate-related movie, and I would argue that Monkeybone is technically a better Tim Burton movie than whatever that Planet of the Apes remake was supposed to be.
What? No!
What the f***?
The juice is loose, and so is the alcohol as we pregame for Halloween by playing the awfully good drinking game. Take a shot or drink every time we see an animated segment drawn by the hand of our story's reluctant hero, a cartoonist named Stu Miley.
Smiley.
Played by a post-Mummy and pre-Whale Brendan Fraser, whose hit comic strip Monkeybone has just been given an animated TV series with help from Stu's agent, Herb, played by Kids in the Hall's Dave Foley, rocking a Guy Fieri haircut.
No.
And in this show's pilot episode, the animated Stu explains in therapy how Monkeybone came to be when he, as a youngster, felt a little something at seeing his elderly teacher's arm fat flapping in the breeze.
I began to feel aroused.
In other words, the name Monkeybone is short for Monkey Boner.
Monkeybone!
Hey, baby!
Gee, I can't wait to see Nick Kroll taking this premise and running it into the ground for 8 seasons of a Netflix show with far more cheaper looking animation. But Stu is disdainful of having to approve all this Monkeybone merchandising and marketing that cheapens the integrity of the horny cartoon monkey who was born from his young penis. So he can go home and make a surprise proposal to his former sleep doctor turned loving girlfriend, Julie McElroy, played in one of her last roles before retirement by the lovely Bridget Fonda, whose therapy had Stu going from making dark paintings with his right hand to now making his hit comic strip with his left hand.
You're gonna be a huge success, so just relax and enjoy it.
But just as they're making their way home, Stu accidentally deploys a giant inflatable Monkeybone inside their car. That has him hitting the gas backwards and crashing the car across the street. I think the pizza delivery guy from Home Alone here must have cut his brakes after Stu had given him a stingy tip for catering that premiere.
Cheapskate.
You filthy animal.
Julie makes it out okay, but Stu falls himself into a coma, in which his spirit begins sinking deep below into his bed, then waking up while riding a roller coaster. A solar coaster, if you will, headed for a carnival-themed spiritual purgatory where comatose spirits hang out for eternity by the name of Downtown.
We welcome you to downtown, and while you're in your coma,
Or as I like to call it, Pee-wee's Hell House. Even Jack Skellington would shriek in horror from seeing the creative creatures and figments of imagination hanging out in downtown, many of whom Stu has already seen in his childhood nightmares.
Hey, bud, glad to see me.
No. Don't run away.
Among them are the legendary Doug Jones, made up here to look like a Yeti, character actor great Mike Starr having his head animated as the Coma Bar's literally bull-headed bartender named Bull, Rose McGowan getting the furries in the audience going as the bar's Catwoman waitress named Kitty,
She is waiting for you, Stu. You're one in a million.
and biggest of all, the bar's live entertainment from Stu's three-dimensional cartoon creation, Monkeybone, voiced with a high pitch by the great John Turturro.
My very own creator, Mr. Stupid Mopey! Hiya, boss.
Yes, Monkeybone may have enough pop culture wisecracks and dated celebrity impersonations to make even Beetlejuice roll his eyes,
Robin the Boy Wonder, Chewbacca!
Sound like Chewbacca taking a shit.
but his animation from Henry Selick's team is incredibly well done. And Turturro has a lot of fun with this voice part, like he's reprising his Groucho Marx type horn dog character from the movie Brain Donors.
I'd love a stiff one, but Stu here forgot to endow me.
In fact, this monkey is so horny that he dives right into Rose McGowan's cat boobs. Not the last time John Turturro would assault a Catwoman.
You made me do this.
And sings a song for his creator about wanting to run a fuck train on his hot girlfriend.
On a boat, the lady got a loose caboose. On a boat, the lady got a loose caboose. On board, get on the train.
Well, sounds to me like he wants somebody to fuck with the Jesus.
You said it, man.
Speaking of Julie, she is back on Earth mourning Stu's coma alongside his sister Kimmy, played by a particularly annoying Megan Mullally, who insists that she and Stu had made a pact while their dad was dying to pull each other's plug if it looked like they weren't gonna make it.
I need a realistic answer, Doctor.
3 months.
Several months later.
Well, it's been 3 months. I gave the order.
Well, that's not good. Looks like Stu is doomed to stay in downtown with his cartoon sidekick unless he can obtain one of these golden exit passes, which are given by these white-wearing Grim Reapers to spirits whose bodies are about to come back to life, by shooting them into the sky with a strength tester machine inside the mouth of a bust of Abe Lincoln. This is the strangest remake of Zardoz that I've ever seen. Thankfully, Stu and Monkeybone get invited to seek some advice at a swanky pajama party, alongside chicken ladies and singing Medusas and cockroaches with the head of Lawrence Fishburne that is being held by the god of sleep named Hypnos, played by a post-Do the Right Thing and pre-Breaking Bad Giancarlo Esposito.
A lot of nightmares down here, but yours are like caviar.
Who still gives off badass Gus Fring vibes, even as he's dressed up like him from the Powerpuff Girls, and awkwardly wearing goat legs that he stole from Torgo. Hypno shows Stu a beautiful-looking nightmare being broadcast from Julie's brain, where he finds out his sister is gonna take him out the same way that Danny DeVito died in the new Beetlejuice movie. So Hypnos advises Stu and Monkeybone to steal themselves an exit pass from the headquarters of Hypnos' sister and fellow god, Death herself, played by Whoopi Goldberg, looking nearly as embarrassed to be here as she was fighting crime alongside an animatronic T-Rex, who enlists recently dead spirits in the afterlife to serve as her army of Grim Reapers that Stu and Monkeybone disguise themselves among, to the suspicion of her clown-faced assistant, played by Brendan Fraser's George of the Jungle foe Thomas Hayden Church, in an uncredited yet genuinely funny role.
Scott enjoys sunsets and Steven Seagal movies.
These kinds of details really help distinguish Henry Selick's vision of the afterlife from Tim Burton's version of it from Beetlejuice. Like Whoopi's head exploding in rage for no reason and having to get it replaced with one of the spare heads she has in her collection. Or Stu getting stuck inside one of his disturbing early paintings, which looks like the coolest prog rock album cover ever. Yet just as he and Monkeybone escape with one of the exit passes, just in time before Stu's sister has them pulling the plug, their emotional farewell is foiled by a double cross.
I really do love
Betrayal!
Turns out Monkeybone had already made a deal with Giancarlo Esposito to steal the exit pass for himself to take over Stu's body, as part of Hypnos' evil plot to use the nightmare juice that we failed to mention was medically discovered by Stu's Dr. Girlfriend in the human brain as what creates people's nightmares.
Does everybody here know what Onyx is?
It's nightmare juice.
She just whipped up a big old batch of nightmare juice!
Which will in turn create more of the nightmares that downtown is fueled upon. Look, I'm just as confused describing this story as you are hearing it, folks. Describing this movie makes me feel like the angry video game nerd coming up with the plot of an Atari Jaguar game.
You're a shark, and you gotta shake palm trees till trains
Run
fall.
away!
And to get them down, you have to collect monkey butts.
So now that Monkeybone has awoken in Stu's body, posing as his human master,
Whoa, baby!
the movie begins taking a steep creative dive from here. Not only does Monkey Stu shave his coma beard down into a douchebag-looking goatee, but Brendan Fraser's human performance as Monkeybone is not one thing like John Turturro's vocal performance. In fact, he's somehow more annoying when he isn't a cartoon. This scene of him getting it on with Bridget Fonda while in monkey mode is somehow even more uncomfortable to watch than Brendan Fraser eating himself to death in The Whale. He's acting like if Lank from Encino Man had taken Pauly Shore's advice instead of Sean Astin's.
Wake up.
Monkey Stu also happens to be way more into the merchandising thing than his master was, in what feels like Henry Selick's clever commentary on the endless merchandising for The Nightmare Before Christmas that continues to this day. But Hypnos pays him a dream visit to remind him about their evil task at hand, or else
Your monkey ass is mine.
and Monkeybone gets back to stealing some of the nightmare juice from Julie's lab out of the hands of a caged orangutan, who I guess knows that Stu is actually a monkey and has the hots for him?
Making love with you.
Sucker.
Isn't this the same exact thing that the former president of the Golden Globes tried pulling on Brendan Fraser? Meanwhile, the real Stu is down in downtown, locked up in a dungeon cell, alongside a bunch of famously dark-minded people from real life. Lizzie Borden, Attila the Hun, and Edgar Allan Poe, alongside his fellow horror laureate,
Steve King.
Stephen King?
and no, they could not get a cameo from the real Stephen King, who, like Stu, has also had a fictional animal creation of his taking over his body while in a coma.
Well, did y'all have sidekicks? Monkeys?
Raven. Cujo.
Which means the real Stephen King is now controlled by a rabid dog who doesn't speak English.
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
Not even Stephen King at his most coked up could have made a movie as convoluted as this. Just ask Giancarlo. He was in Maximum Overdrive.
Your mama. Your monkey
But back on Earth, Monkey Stu has just had himself a brilliant plan to drug people with the nightmare juice by inserting it into the asses of a new Monkeybone doll that will emit orange dust when you pull its thumb out of its ass.
Nightmare in a butt.
No wonder this sounds like a half-assed plot from Jack Nicholson's Joker, because look at who wrote the screenplay. And while he tests the juice out on Stu's poor pet dog, leading to a downright hilarious nightmare of him getting spayed and neutered by some redneck cats,
It would cut off your Johnson!
Kitty distracts Hypnos at his hideaway while she steals herself a skeleton key for Stu to break free.
You find a way back to that girl of yours and you make her happy.
While she takes care of the mouse security guard outside, just like a cat would.
Go! Just go!
This was the specific scene that had me coming back to the theater to see this movie 3 times. This blew my young mind even more than seeing Rose McGowan's nipples underneath her shirt in Scream. If only they would let her do that to Harvey Weinstein in his prison cell. After getting caught and tortured by death, Stu pleads with her to let him back on Earth in another body so he can stop Monkeybone from making his proposal to Julie at a museum benefit where he plans to drop a bunch of drug dolls from a piñata of his head. Because of course he is.
I don't generally do this, but I really like your comic strip. You're gonna need a new body.
Go!
So Death lets Stu go and kicks him in the ass to the sky so he can enter a recently dead body, which unfortunately turns out to be that of a morbidly obese college professor who just died from a heart attack.
I need to know that I have done one thing right with my life!
I'm kidding. Stu actually wakes up on an operating table in the body of
Chris, goddamn Katana.
Yes, the breakout SNL star of the late 90s, who then failed to break out into movies.
You guys want some cookies?
Is here playing an Olympic gymnast who recently got killed in a freak accident and wakes up having his organs removed from a bunch of money-hungry surgeons, led by another alumni of both Breaking Bad and SNL, Bob Odenkirk.
Damn you, dead man!
Even though Catan is only in this movie for 15 minutes, thankfully more screen time than disgraced internet film critic Harry Knowles has, he delivers an incredible physical comedy performance up there with his best work on SNL, as he deals with a sliced gut and broken neck while riding on the bus like nothing's wrong with him, and acts more believably as Brendan Fraser than Brendan Fraser is acting like Monkeybone. Plus, Steve Foley gets a big laugh himself after getting the nightmare ass gas on his face, which makes him hallucinate his clothes coming to life and streak bare ass naked inside the museum.
Clothes have turned evil! They're working together!
All those years of trying to keep Mac and Charlie off of school grounds finally drove the poor guy insane. As for Brendan Fraser, he again induces douche chills by proposing to Julie with a cringe-inducing rendition of Brick House by the Commodores.
She's mighty, and I'm letting it all hang out.
Dear God, can Steve Buscemi and Adam Sandler get up on stage already to save their fellow Lone Ranger from his failing solo career?
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
But in swings Stu to stop the proposal.
He's Monkeybone!
Who's able to convince Julie it's actually him from when she saw him in her nightmares earlier.
Is it you?
I had to come back, Julie.
And tries to lure Monkeybone out of his body by shouting his famous catchphrase at him.
Back in the pack! Back in the pack! Back in the pack!
Not back in the pack!
I guess this makes Monkey Stu physically look more like a monkey now, while he runs out to fight with the real Stu as the both of them swing from a runaway Monkeybone balloon, with Chris Kattan throwing out his organs at Brendan Fraser, while Bob Odenkirk and his doctors are running to collect the organs on the ground for cash.
I'll take that young man!
I'm gonna fuck you up.
This, my friends, is a level of cinematic panic attack that not even the Safdie brothers could achieve. Then Monkeybone and Stu are shot down to plunge to their deaths and head back down to downtown, where Death catches them from below while controlling a giant-ass Power Rangers robot. Now she's gone from Robo-Whoopi to Mecha Whoopee. She smacks the monkey back down into Stu's head where he belongs.
On your own, you're a tad vanilla.
Then finally gives Stu his reprieve to head back to Earth.
I'll take the South Park guys instead. I hear they're dying to meet me.
No, not them. Not when Matt and Trey have so many Paramount Plus specials left to make. Take John K. from Ren and Stimpy instead. Stu finally wakes up back in his body, which somehow wasn't smushed into jelly from that fall earlier, and reunites in body and spirit with his beloved Julie once more.
People, for the love of God, take off your clothes!
Oh yeah, Dave Foley, the audience for this movie is taking off something alright, taking off for the exit of the movie theater, to go home and stare into space, attempting to understand what bizarre monstrosity they just subjected themselves to for the past 90 minutes.
Take off your clothes!
Of those three movies that I had mentioned earlier, Monkeybone has the most in common with Ralph Bakshi's Cool World, in that they're both the only live-action films for famous animation directors whose far darker original scripts were overhauled by studio meddling, as Henry Selick originally wanted to make a faithful adaptation of the Darktown comic that would have starred Nicolas Cage as Stu and Christopher Walken as Death. And if you watch the deleted scenes on the Monkeybone DVD, some of which were already seen in the movie's trailer, you could see how they would have made for a more cohesive end product, namely the alternate ending where Death gets her revenge on Hypnos for all his mischievous meddling. Yet even in its truncated form, Monkeybone has still got more creativity and originality than the worst movies we have to put up with in 2024. With the stop-motion animation and largely real sets showing every dollar of its $75 million budget. Though its crude humor may work against its ornate visuals, Monkeybone is still a most fascinating and entertaining failure that hopefully keeps finding a cult audience among younger fans of Henry Selick's work. If only I had known as a young viewer of this film that there would come an even worse comedy from 20th Century Fox later that year. Also about a mentally disturbed cartoonist that would make Monkeybone look like Coraline by comparison. On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Boulder Bruce, Monkeybone will give you plenty of nightmares before either Halloween or Christmas, and swings from a vine onto a 7 out of 10. And with Disney owning the rights to Monkeybone now, Henry Selick had better stop them from any potential crossovers. I'm Jesse Shade for JoBlo.com, and thanks again for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the JoBlo Originals channel. Tell all your friends who like this sort of content, and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all our latest videos. We are an independent company that appreciates all of your support. And if you think that this was all the horror that this movie had to offer, well, just wait till you see what its actual merchandise looked like.
All aboard! The lady got a loose caboose. All aboard! The lady got a loose caboose. On board! Get on the Julie train. On board, Miss Julie Juice and Booty train. My Julie's got a booty.
I don't need it. You can turn me into a paper doll, too. Please, just give me 1 hour. That's it.
Hey, I love my girlfriend.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.